What is up, guys? So this is our aggression ally tier list. So for the criteria for this tier list, we will not be holding being trait locked against an ally. So if an ally has a very powerful effect for X-Men, for example, then we will be evaluating them as if we are playing an X-Men hero. For the S tier here, these are allies that are auto includes when I'm playing aggression. A tier are for allies that I think are very, very good, and I'm usually trying to include them when I'm playing this aspect. B tier are for allies that if I have an empty roster spot, I have no problem including them in that spot. C tier are for allies that are very situational and you really need to deck build around in order to maximize their full potential. And then D tier are for allies that I don't think are very, very good. So let's go ahead and start off here with our first ally. We have Angela. So she is a zero cost ally with 0 Thor, 2 attack, and 3 hit points. So this is a really good stat line because she is free to play. She has a force response, so you must trigger it. After Angela enters play, under your control, search the top 10 cards of the encounter deck for a minion and put it into play engage with you. Shuffle the encounter deck. If a minion was not put into play this way, discard Angela. So she works really, really well with aggression archetypes where you want minions in play. Fortunately, that is a lot of aggression decks. And a lot of heroes that do well in aggression, like Rocket Raccoon or Thor with his Have At Thee, it's really, really good whenever you have minions. So I think if we're evaluating her, we should consider her potential with one of the most popular archetypes in this aspect. So I think she is a very good ally. So we're going to go ahead and put her here in the A tier. And I personally don't prefer playing archetypes with a lot of minions where it revolves around getting minions into play. But if you are, I think she's very good with that. But if you don't want minions in play with you, I don't think she's going to be as useful because getting that minion, it might, unless she can defeat it right away, it might hurt a little bit. But if she can clear it out right away, like a very weak minion with 2 hit points, then I wouldn't mind her in any deck, but you don't have a guarantee that she can get into play anyways because you can only look at the top 10 cards of the encounter deck. So if there is no minion, then Angela gets this card right away. So I'm not the biggest on her, but at the same time, I see her value, especially playing in popular aggression archetypes. Okay, so next we have Bombshell. This is a 4 cost ally, 2 thwart, but she takes 2 consequential damage for thwarting, 3 attack, 3 hit points. Play only if your identity has a champion trait, so we will be assumed that we are playing a champion if we're using Bombshell. Divide damage from Bombshell's attack among each enemy as evenly as possible. So if you're hitting 2 enemies, then I guess 2, if you're engaged with 2 enemies, I mean, 2 of her damage is going to go towards one, and then 1 will go towards the other. If you have 3, then you just split them up 1, 1, 1. I do not really like that effect that much. And it seems like you can't really choose when it triggers, so you can't choose to have her do that 3 damage. And for 4 costs, that's a little bit expensive for this type of effect, so I'm actually going to put her here in the C tier. I think there are situations where she might be very, very useful. Like if you're facing Ocean and then you have like 3 Joe minions, she can clear them all out. But I think that is very situational at best, and if I do have an empty roster spot, I am not thinking about putting her in there. Okay, so next we have Boom Boom. This is a 3 cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 hit points. As an action, exhaust Boom Boom. Add 1 boom counter to her. Then you may discard Boom Boom to deal 1 damage to each enemy for each boom counter on her. So she's just staying in play. You exhaust her and then add that boom counter. So she's very, very low tempo. She has to be in play for a long time. If you have a way to ready her in aggression, or if you're playing a multi-aspect ally, you can play Get Ready. That might help her a lot more. But overall, she's going to spend a lot of time on the board. But at the same time, her potential is very, very high. You could definitely build around her and deck build for her to have her, like, I don't know, possibly do like 10, 20 damage. But at the same time, aggression is not the aspect where you really want to be stalling. I think protection and justice are better aspects to really just hang in the fight for a long time. So she's not a good ally. I'm going to put her in the C tier, but I'm going to put her above Bombshell because I do think that she can possibly have high potential if you really play around it. But she's very situational. Okay, so next we have Braun here. He's a 3 cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 5 hit points. So he has a lot of hit points here, but his thwart and attack are not very good for being 3 cost. As a response, after Braun attacks, remove 1 thwart from scheme. So that's pretty cool. This is not a thwart activation, so if he attacks, this remove 1 threat will bypass a patrol if you have a minion that has that or anything like that. So he's effectively doing one thwart, one attack every single time he attacks. And what's nice is that you don't have to attack and defeat a minion. All he has to do is attack. So I don't think this is a bad effect at all. He is very tanky too. And being able to attack for one and thwart for one 5 times in a row is pretty good. So I'm going to put him in the B tier. If I have an empty roster spot in my deck, I would not mind putting Braun. I don't think he's bad at all. He's a little bit slow, but that is okay because he can stay in play for a very long time. Okay, so next we have Bug. This is a 2-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 hit points. As a hero response, after your hero makes a basic attack, heal 1 damage from Bug. So Bug is already really good because of this stat line being 2 costs and just having the basic 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 hit points. But this hero response adds so much versatility. If your hero is attacking, which in aggression you usually will be making basic attacks, Bug can stay on the field indefinitely. So you can almost Voltron him too. So I think he's a very, very good ally. I'm going to put him in the A tier. And I actually like him more than Angela. So when I play aggression, I usually don't play with decks that revolve around getting a lot of minions in play. So I don't really like that archetype. And I think Bug works in that archetype if you are playing that archetype. But he also works outside of it. While Angela, although she's very good in that archetype, it could be rough sometimes if you're playing encounter sets with more strong minions. So I do think Bug is a more valuable ally, and I'm almost always including him in the aggression deck. Okay, so next we have Dust. She is a 3-cost ally with 1 thwart, 1 attack, 3 hit points. As an interrupt, whenever Dust attacks a minion, she attacks each minion in play. Dust takes +1 consequential damage after this attack. So this is really cool because it hits every single minion. So even in multiplayer, she would just hit like every other minion that's engaged with other players as well. But I don't think she's very, very good. At 3 costs, only having 1 attack is not that good. I think she's a situational ally, so I'm going to put her in the C tier. Similar to Bombshell here, if you're facing like Ultron with a bunch of little minions, Dust could be very clutch, and she could be A tier against Ultron. But I think that normally she's not going to be as good. I'm going to put her behind Boom Boom. I think she's better than Bombshell because she hits every single minion, and Bombshell would just divide her attack. But and she's a little bit cheaper, even though Bombshell can hit for 3 if there are no other minions in play, like if it's just a villain. At least Dust is a little bit cheaper. And then I'm gonna put her behind Boom Boom because I think Boom Boom might have really high potential if you deck build around it, and Dust potential is not gonna be as good. You could buff her attack, but even then, it's really just hitting every minion, and she'll take 2 consequential damage. So even if you buff her, she can attack twice. You have to really buff her a lot more to get more activations out of that. Okay. So next we have Hercules. He's a 6-cost ally. 1 thwart, 3 attack, 4 hit points. So this is a pretty good stat line, but very expensive. Reduce the cost to play Hercules by 1 for each minion engaged with you. So he also fits that popular aggression archetype with a lot of minions. I think I'm going to put him in the B tier. And I put him behind Braun. I think that, similar to Angela, he has a very good effect, especially if you can get him out for free. But it's very situational if you have a lot of minions. But if you are playing an archetype where you're trying to get all those minions out, I could definitely see him filling out an empty roster spot. I don't know if I would be itching to include him, which is what the A tier is reserved for. So I don't think he's Angel level in terms of like, we can just get her out for free and then she can do this clutch thing. He may be free and he may not be. And if he is free, you may have minions with guard or like other nasty effects where he won't be able to help you burst them down. Okay. So next we have Hulk. He's a 2-cost ally. He cannot thwart. He has a null for his thwart symbol. And then he has 3 attack, 5 hit points. So this is an amazing style, even without any thwart. Just 2 costs for 3 attack and 5 hit points is insane. He has a force response, so you must trigger it. After Hulk attacks, discard a top card of your deck. If that card's printed resources has physical, deal 2 damage to the enemy. Energy, deal 1 damage to each character. Mental, discard Hulk. And wild, all of the above. So after Hulk attacks, you would trigger this. You have to discard top card of your deck. If you're playing a deck where you're putting a bunch of physical energy resources, then he's pretty good because you can guarantee what will happen. But if you're playing a regular aggression deck, I think he is actually still amazing. And he can obviously block for you if you need him to, because 2 costs, 5 hit points. He might be able to take 2 villain attacks. And then one really cool thing about him is that I like playing around his energy stuff, right? And especially if you are ready to gun the villain down, it doesn't matter if Hulk gets discarded. You can take that huge risk if the villain's like low on hit points and you're ready to make that final push. So he's gonna be good for late game either way. And it's cool because the physical right here for deal 2 damage to enemy, it's not an attack, so that will bypass guard and retaliate. For the energy resource here, it hits every single character, so I do have to watch out that whenever I'm using him, I gotta make sure that my allies all have more than 1 hit point because Hulk will kill all of them. And then the mental, you just discard him, and then the wild is pretty fun to use as well because then he'll do 3 damage to the villain and 1 damage to all the enemy characters, including yourself. But he can end up doing, if you discard a card's printed resource with a wild, he can end up doing 3, 2, 6 damage to just the villain with 1 activation. And then another cool thing is that if the card's printed resource has this, so if you have a card that has multiple printed resources, then you can activate multiple effects, which can be very, very fun for heroes that have resources with multiple resources on there. Okay, so Hulk I think is amazing. I'm putting him in the A tier. Whenever I'm playing aggression, I'm always thinking about how I want to include Hulk. And even if I don't have him activate that often, I'm usually including him in aggression decks because I think that he's pretty valuable with this stat line right here. And he's super duper cheap, so he can never hurt. Okay, so next we have Magic. This is a 3-cost ally. 1 Thor, 2 attack, and 3 hit points. As a response, after you play Magic from your hand, spend a mental resource. Choose a non-elite minion engaged with an X-Men hero. Shuffle that minion into the encounter deck, so we're going to assume that we're playing her with an X-Men hero whenever we are evaluating her. Spend a mental resource, choose a non-elite minion engaged with you, and then shuffle the minion back into the counter deck. I think she is okay. She has a decent stat line, but at the same time, this effect, you have to choose a non-elite minion, so you can't choose the toughest ones, and they go back into the encounter deck. So that's actually not bad because I don't mind getting weak minions as my encounter card. There are much worse encounter cards like an assault or an advance or something like that where the villain activates. So it's not the worst effect. Yeah, I don't think that shuffling it into encounter deck or discarding it makes that much of a difference. So I'm not gonna hold that against her, but at the same time, I'm not itching to include her. I don't think she's A tier. Let's see, if I'm playing X-Men for sure, I think I'd rather have Magic than Braun, because at least by playing her, I know I can get rid of a minion, that's not an elite minion. And Braun, I mean, he's just very slow, so Magic might be able to come into play and do a big thing and help us change the board by getting rid of a minion here. You have to spend an extra mental resource, but I think that's okay to do that because you do get this ally as well. So I do like her a little bit more than Braun. So if I'm playing X-Men and I have an empty roster spot for aggression, I would not mind putting in Magic. Okay, so next we have Marvel Boy. He's a 2-cost ally. 0 Thor, 2 attack, 2 hit points. As an interrupt whenever Marvel Boy attacks, spend a physical resource. This attack gains piercing and ranged. So Marvel Boy is a great 2-cost ally, but he cannot Thor because he has 0 Thor. So unless you want to buff him up, but I think that's going to be a little bit of a waste on him. He does have 2 attack, which is very, very good for being a 2-cost ally. This interrupt is not a forced interrupt, so you don't have to trigger it. But there are definitely multiple conditions where it feels really good triggering this, right? Like if you're facing a minion that has retaliate and toughness, Marvel Boy gets around both of those. So I think he has a very good effect. And it's great that it's situational, even though you do have to spend that physical resource. I'm going to put him in the B tier. And I actually like him more than Magic. So if I have an empty roster spot in aggression, I would not mind putting Magic or Marvel Boy in there because he's 2 cost and he has 2 attacks. So that's already a great stat line. He can just attack for 2 and then chump block at worst. At best, he helps you get rid of a tough and he can avoid the retaliate, where hopefully your hero can finish the minion off and then avoid the retaliate entirely. So he could come in very, very clutch. But I don't think he's as good as these allies here, where they're just a lot more versatile, I guess. Yeah, Marvel Boy needs a specific situation to unlock his true potential, but at the same time, at his floor, he's still very, very good, just being a 2-cost ally with 2 attack. Okay, so next we have Psylocke. She's a 4-cost ally, so a little bit more on the expensive side. 2 Thor, 1 attack, 3 hit points. She enters play with 2 psionic counters on her. As an interrupt, when Psylocke attacks an enemy, remove 1 psionic counter from her, confuse that enemy, and deal 1 damage to it. So I'm not the biggest on statuses, but I can see how this is very powerful, especially if you are facing a villain that doesn't have stalwart and steady. Her effects is a little bit contradictory, right? Because it's when she attacks an enemy, you remove a psionic counter from her, confuse the enemy, and deal 1 damage to it. So you have to pick that enemy that you're attacking with her. And then she has 2 thwart. But if you thwart, you won't be able to use her attack. And you want her to attack to do an extra damage and confuse the enemy. So it's a little bit contradictory because it would be better if she had 2 attack instead. But it makes sense for the character because she's very psionic that she has that 2 thwart. So she's very similar to the protection ally Iron Fist. I'm going to put her in A tier. No, actually, I don't. I'm gonna actually put her in B tier. I'm gonna put her first in the B tier, and hear me out here. So she has a very powerful effect. Don't get me wrong, but whenever I'm building an aggression deck, I'm not really looking to build around her. I think that Confuse is very useful, but it's not something that we necessarily like will die for in aggression, especially her being 4 cost. And then this effect here of how she has 2 thwart, you won't really get the full benefits of that because you want her to attack in order to confuse an enemy. And then yeah, I think she's close. She can definitely fill an empty roster spot. Do I think she's good enough to you know what? I am gonna bump her up to H. I think that confuse could be very valuable. I'm not that high on it just because I'm not the biggest fan of Stasis and because of Steady and Stalwart, but I can see her value in an A tier. She could be an ally that is like very essential to a deck here. Yeah, so I'm gonna put her in A tier. I might change that, but I think for now we just put her there. Okay, so next we have Rictor. He's a 3 cost ally with 1 thwart, 2 attack, and 3 hit points. As a response, so it's not a forced response. After Rictor attacks, discard the top card of your deck, deal 1 damage to each minion engaged with you for each resource on the discarded card. So most likely you're going to be getting 1 resource, so he just deals 1 damage to all minions. So not to the villain, just to the minions. If you can somehow manipulate that to get a double resource or triple resource on top of your deck, he'll do more, but at the same time, I want that double resource and triple resource to use. So his effect, I don't think is very good. At the same time, he doesn't have a bad stat line. He has a very decent stat line, being a 3 cost ally with 2 attack. You don't have to trigger the effect unless you want to. So I can see him being very clutch. I think he's better than a C tier ally, right? Even if you don't get situational benefits, he's still good. He's similar to Magic and Braun for him, but I think Magic, you control it a little bit more because she can help you get rid of a minion. And then Rictor, he just does 1 to everyone. And not to the villain, only to other minions. So I think Magic is a little bit better. I think Rictor is better than Braun because Braun is just still a little bit too slow, and especially aggression, you don't want to be playing that slow. Okay, so next we have Sentry. He's a 4 cost ally, 2 thwart, 3 attack, 5 hit points. As a force response, so you must trigger it. After a Sentry enters play under your control, deal yourself 1 encounter card. So I'm guessing you get a face down encounter card. Yeah, that is not very good. 4 cost is so expensive, and you get a face down encounter card out of that as well. He's very similar to a Star-Lord ally. He has more hit points, more attack, but yeah, I mean, and he's slow too. So if you want to get the full benefit out of him, you want him attacking or thwarting every single turn. He does have a very good stat line. It's just that getting that extra encounter card, if it's like a villain's attack and you need him to block for you, he'll kind of negate his own effect and at 4 costs. So I don't think there's much situations where I want to play him. I'm gonna actually put him in D tier. Yeah, because his effect, it's not just when not when he's played from your hand, but when he enters play. So if you get him into play any way, he's gonna get you a face on encounter card, and that encounter card can be very tough, especially against the stronger villains there. I think there's gonna be better allies no matter what. So I don't think he even goes in a C tier. I don't want him in my deck. Okay. So next we have Shatterstar. This is a 4 cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, but he takes 2 consequential damage for thwart activations, 4 hit points. As interrupt, whenever Shatterstar attacks a minion, engage that minion. If you're already engaged with that minion, Shatterstar gets +1 for this attack. So I think that's not a bad effect. So if you are playing in true solo, if he's attacking minions, he pretty much has 3 attack, 2 thwart, 3 attack, 4 hit points. If you're playing in multiplayer, he can help you steal minions away from your partner or other players in your group, which will help Thor because then you can engage that minion and Thor will help you draw a card if you're playing the Thor hero with his have at the effect. So I don't think he's absolutely terrible. At the same time, if he attacks the villain, he's only 2 attack, 4 cost is a little bit hefty. I think there's situations where he can be good, especially if you're playing Thor or if you want minions in play engage with you for certain effects, like maybe Bring It or something like that. But yeah, I think he's very situational. I don't think he's as easy to use as Bombshell. You really have to build around him. So he can be good, but I'm not the biggest fan of this card. And I do like Bombshell and Dust a little bit more. Next we have She-Hulk. 4 cost ally, 2 Thor, but she takes 2 consequential damage for Thor activations, 1 attack, 4 hit points. She-Hulk gets +1 attack for each damage token on her. So ideally, you want to Thor for 2, which is pretty nice, and then she can swing for 3 because she'll have that 2 damage from thwarting. And the next turn she can swing for 4. So to get her full benefit, she's going to be slow. I think if I have an empty roster spot, I wouldn't mind her. But she's slow, so she's very similar to Braun and Hercules. But I think Braun, I do like Braun a little bit more for that cheaper cost. And then he can just attack for 1 and remove a Thor immediately. And she's Thoring for 2. And so for her, I have to pick that specific sequence if I want to get her full benefits. Yeah, if she attacks right away, it's not going to be as good. Yeah, and then you definitely don't want her chump blocking, which kind of hurts because it's very nice chump blocking. Yeah, I'm going to put her here. I think she's better than Hercules. I'd rather include her than Hercules, even if I am playing a deck with a bunch of minions. I think, actually, would I? Maybe, no, actually, I think I would put Hercules in front of her. If I'm playing a deck with a bunch of minions, where I know I'm trying to get minions to engage with me, I think I would prefer Hercules. And then She-Hulk, I mean, she can be very strong, but I think that she's not an ally that I'm just looking to include. And I would rather have these allies in my deck than She-Hulk here. Okay, so next we have Spider-Girl Anya Corazon. She is a 2 cost ally, 1 Thor, 2 attack, 2 hit points. So an amazing stat line, especially with that 2 attack at 2 cost. As a response after you play Spider-Girl from your hand, stun and confuse a minion. So that's not the best effect. It can definitely help out a little bit, so you don't have to worry about defeating that minion right away. So it's definitely not the weakest effect. Obviously, if there are no minions in play, her effect's kind of useless. I'll put her above Marble. I think she's B tier, in where if I have an empty roster spot, she's more than welcome. But I really need a minion that's not steady and stalwart, that I need more time to handle, so then she can just stop him a little bit for me. She's a very thematic card because, you know, she's a spider, so she's probably like webbing up that minion here. Yeah, so I think she's a great card. She's not going to be an A tier because her effect isn't good enough to really like bump her up or anything like that, but she does have a good stat line. Okay, next we have Sunfire. 2 cost ally, 1 Thor, 2 attack, 2 hit points. So same as Anya Corazon, a really good stat line. His response is after you play Sunfire from your hand, spend an energy resource, choose an attachment with the text hero action or hero response, and discard it. So Sunfire is very good. I think he is super duper good. Yeah, because especially against the higher difficulties, almost every villain, even the weaker villains, have attachments that have a hero action or hero response. The first thing that comes to mind is like Venom Goblin's Advanced Glider. Instead of throwing away a 3 cost event, attack event, I mean, you just have Sunfire discard it. Other nasty attachments will usually require you to spend 3 resources, like a physical, mental, and energy resource. So Sunfire can just bypass that. You spend 1 mental resource, 1 energy resource, I mean, whenever you play him, and he'll just discard that nasty attachment. So I think it's very good. I actually like him more than Hulk. I think he's an auto include. If I'm playing aggression, I think he's one of the strongest allies in the game. And I think he's on that tier of Maria Hill and Nick Fury and just other S tier allies in the game, because I mean, he doesn't do what they do, but he fulfills a different type of role where he just helps you get rid of that really bad attachment. And being 2 cost, 1 Thor, 2 attack and 2 hit points, he's always valuable even if you don't get his effect. And if you do get his effect, he's saving you like up to 3 resources there. Yeah, I think he's very good. He is my my S tier aggression ally, the first one that we have on the list so far. Okay, so next we have the Locust. This is a 2 cost ally, a 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 hit points. So not a bad silent, except she can't thwart because if she thwarts, she takes 2 consequential damage and gets defeated. Play only if your identity has the champion trait, so we're going to be assuming that we are playing champion hero when evaluating her. As a hero response after the Locust enters play, add one aggression event from your discard pile to your hand. So she's helping you tutor that event to your hand. That's a pretty good effect. I said it's an aggression event, so you can't get aggression ally, and you can't get a hero specific and an identity specific event, which is probably stronger than aggression events. So it's not the best effect. It would be really cool if it was any aggression card. I'm putting in the B tier if you're playing for with champions. I think that she is someone that you're looking to include if you have an empty roster in the deck. But I would much rather, I think I would much rather include Magic than her. But I do like her a little bit more than Rictor. Yeah, so she definitely can't thwart, right? Because you want her to chump block, so you want to just attack with her. But you can get that aggression event to your hand, which could just be a resource to refund her cost. So yeah, she's not bad. I do like her more than Rictor for champions. But I think Magic's ability is a little bit more valuable. Okay, so next we have Thor. Jane Foster Thor. It's a 4-cost ally, 1 Thor, 2 attack, 4 hit points. As a response after you play Thor from your hand, do 2 damage to a villain and 3 damage instead if you pay for this using a physical resource. So since she's 4 cost, I'm assuming that most of the time when you play her, you will be using that physical resource, so she can just do 3 damage to the villain. You can't choose on a minion, which kind of sucks because she will be a lot more versatile if you could do it to a minion. So you have a nasty minion in play engage with you. Yeah, that could be nice. The stat line is not great for being a 4-cost ally, right? 1 Thor, 2 attack, and then she's slow. If you want to get all of her activations and take advantage of her stat line, you do want to keep her in play and not have her chump block. So she is a little bit slow. I don't think. Let's see, is she a? I don't think she's absolutely terrible. I'm putting in the B tier. She can fill an empty roster spot, but at the end of the line. So these guys will fill that spot a lot easier. I think for aggression, it might be useful, especially when you're ready to gun the villain down. You can play her, she does 3 damage to the villain, and she can still swing for 2, and possibly swing for another 2 the next turn, and then take a chump block or something like that. So I think, let's see, she comes in hitting for, she comes in swing for 5. So I actually like her. I like Braun more. I'm gonna put her here in between Hercules and Braun. I think Braun just has more situations where he's useful, but Jane Foster can come in and just do a lot right away and affect the board state. Hercules is also similar to Braun, where he just comes in very useful if you can get him for cheap. And then She-Hulk's just very, yeah. So I do like him more Hercules. I think that burst is a little bit more valuable than coming in for cheap if you have a bunch of minions. But at the same time, I think Braun is more versatile. So I think this is a good spot for her. Okay, so next we have Thor Odinson. He's a 3-cost ally, 1 Thor, 3 attack. So that's a very high attack for 3 costs, but it does take 2 consequential damage for attack activations. He has 3 hit points, and he comes in with Toughness, which is very nice. Interrupt whenever Thor attacks a minion, engage with the player, spend an energy resource, resolve this attack against each minion engaged with that player in order of your choice. So that is a very, very powerful effect. To be honest, even if he did not have this effect, and he comes in with Toughness, with 3 attack and 3 cost, that's really good. He can activate 3 times if he attacks, right? Because attacks once, lose a Toughness, attack again, take 2 consequential damage, and attack a 3rd time, or take a chump block, or he can defend with the Toughness if you're facing someone that has like overkill or something like that. Yeah, even if you ignore the effect, which is very, very powerful, he's already an amazing ally. So I think he's already A tier without this effect. With this interrupt, it's not forced, so you can choose when it happens. If he attacks a minion, you can attack every single minion. He can help you clear out the entire board. I think he is A tier. Do I like him? Is he an S tier? Man, he has a very, very unique and powerful effect, and similar to his Lightning Strike card that you have whenever you're playing the Thor hero, but much better. He can hit every minion for 3. He'll still just take that 2 consequential damage, so that is invaluable. At the same time, I think Hulk for me makes it in a lot more aggression decks, just being 2 cost. And Thor can be useful, but He's more useful if you're playing that minion archetype. So I do like Hulk a little bit more, but they're very, very close, and they can all be argued to be better than, like one of them can be better than another one. But I think Hulk is a little bit more, if you were to max out Thor's potential where he's hitting all those minions, uh, then we'll have to compare maxing out Hulk's potential where you're discarding a physical resource because your deck is full of physical resources. And if you're doing that, I mean, 2 cost, 3 attack, plus a 2 damage from discarding physical, he's doing 5 per turn. He can activate 5 times. I mean, that is very, very good. So I'm going to keep Hulk above Thor just because if we compare both of them at their max, I think Hulk's better. And even at their worst, Thor's better, but Hulk is a little bit cheaper at the same time. But it's very, very close. Next we have Throg, 2 cost ally, 1 Thor, 2 attack, and 2 hit points. This is an amazing stat line again for a 2 cost ally. These aggression allies have great stat lines for being 2 cost. For his response, after Throg enters play, give him a tough status card if you're engaged with the minion. So if you're not engaged with the minion, he's actually still fine with that stat line, right? Same as like Anya, Corazon, and Sunfire. But with that extra toughness, if you get a minion, I think that's very, very good. I'm gonna put him last here in the A tier, because Psylocke can do a lot with the confuse, and she can actually change the whole trajectory of your game with those confuses. Throg can come in and be very, very useful with that tough, but it's kind of dependent on that minion, on having minions. If you're playing an archetype that has minions, and obviously he's really good, but you gotta play him when you play him that you still have the minions engaged with you. So if you draw him at the end of your turn, whenever you clear them all out, then obviously he won't have that tough. So I think he's a little bit more situation, but I do think he's a very, very strong and good ally. But I think these allies in front of him are a little bit better. Okay. Next we have Tigra. She is a 3 cost ally, 1 Thor, 2 attack, 3 hit points. She came in the core set along with Hulk. As a response, after Tigra attacks and defeats the minion, heal 1 damage from her. She has a decent stat line already. That's not a bad effect at all. She can technically Voltron herself, but she has to defeat a minion. So you gotta make sure she gets the last thing in the sequence. So I think she fits perfectly in the B tier, where if we have an empty roster spot, we can easily put her in just because of her good stats. She doesn't have the utility that Magic has, so definitely behind Magic. I do like the utility of Locust as well, and I like Rictor more as well. They're the same stat line, but Rictor, he can AoE all the drone minions or something like that. So I like Tigra more than Braun, I think. See, Braun is swinging. Oh man, no, I'm gonna put Tigra behind Braun, because even though she swing for 2, he's swing for 1 and removing a threat, and then he has more activations. They're both equally as fast or slow. Actually, Tigra's a little bit faster with the 2 attack, but Braun is taken with a threat as well. So I do like Braun a little bit more, just because if Tigra's healing herself, she's going to be very, very slow with that healing. And then Braun has 5 hit points anyway, so he can just not heal himself and last 5 turns, while Tigra's also lasting 5 turns. So I do like Braun a little bit more, and I do think Tigra is more useful than Jane Foster Thor. Okay, so next we have Valkyrie. She's a 3 cost ally, 1 Thor, 2 attack, 3 hit points. So a great stat line for 3 cost ally. That standard curve that we're looking for. As a response, after Valkyrie enters play, deal 2 damage to a minion, 3 damage instead if you pair this card using an energy resource. So very similar to Jane Foster Thor, but she's doing 2 to 3 damage to a minion versus 2 to 3 damage to the villain. And Jane Foster is a physical resource and Valkyrie is energy. So I like Valkyrie for sure more than Thor, because she's 3 costs. Even though she has 1 less hit point, she has the same Thor and attack. And I think the minion, and it can be argued which one's more useful, the villain one or the minion one. And I think in different situations, one will be better than the other, but they're pretty much tied in how useful they are. Valkyrie does not have to be just for minion archetypes, because you usually have a minion engaged with you, and she might be a good ally to pull out at that time. I like her effect actually more than Tigra and Braun actually. And actually I like her more than Rictor, because she has that concentrated damage towards a minion. Yeah, I'm going to put her here. I like her more than Rictor. They all have the same stat line here, with Tigra, Rictor, and Valkyrie. But I think Valkyrie is the best of the 3. And then I don't think she's as valuable as the 2 cost Locust that can help get you an aggression event, which will refund her cost as well. So I think this is a good spot for Valkyrie. If I have an empty spot in my deck, she's more than welcome to join, but I like these guys a little bit more. Okay, next we have Wasp. Let's say 0 cost ally, 1 Thor, 3 attack. So very, very high attack, especially for 3 cost. She has 0 hit points. She gets +1 hit point for each Pym counter on her, so she's just like the Ant-Man Hank Pym ally for leadership. As an interrupt, whenever Wasp enters play, place 1 Pym counter on her to a max of 3 for each energy resource you overpay for her cost. So she's not as good as Hank Pym, because Hank Pym, you can put 4 resources, she can only do 3, and then you have to do energy resources. For Hank Pym, you can do any resource. She has 1 less Thor than him, and 1 more attack. So her hit points are going to be basically whatever you use to pay for her. So I think the best curve, just like with Ant-Man, is going to be if you get 2 cost. If you use 2 resources to get her for 2 cost, swing for 3, and then she can take a chump block. If you do 3 cost, actually if you do 3 cost, she is still amazing because she has 1 Thor and then 3 attacks, so she can do 9 damage. So she's actually a very, very powerful ally. And I think that, I mean, she's very, very useful. I think she has more useful situations than not. And then she can, at worst, you can just get 1 cost for her. And then she can chump block for you if you need it. Or just 1 cost for 3 damage. Which isn't the best, but I mean, if it's what the situation calls for, you know, it's not bad. I think I like her more than Marvel Boy, for sure. Would Wasp go in A tier for me? I mean, 3 attack is very, very high. I think she actually makes it in the A tier for me. And I don't think she's as good as Throg, because his utility is a little bit better. But coming in for 2 costs, for example, and then being able to swing for 3 and take a chump block, I think is very useful. Yeah, so I'm going to put Wasp actually in the A tier. I think I am looking to include her in aggression decks. Yeah, she's very, very good. Okay, so our last aggression ally, and how fitting, is Wolverine. He's very, very cool. He's one of my favorite cards in the game. 4 cost ally, 1 Thor, 3 attack, but he takes 2 consequence damage for attack activations. He has 4 hit points. Wolverine's attacks gain piercing, so he can get rid of all your tough, just like Marvel Boy, except you don't have to spend a resource for him. And as a response, after your turn begins, heal 1 damage from Wolverine. So thematic. They nail this ally, and he has such a simple effect as well, right? He just has piercing because he's freaking Wolverine, and then he's healing 1 damage every single turn. This guy is pretty much like a beat cop, right? If you get him out, he can Thor for 1, and he just heals it back up every single turn, so he can do that indefinitely until you need him to pierce off toughness or until you're ready to gun the villain down. 4 cost is very, very expensive, but he is definitely worth that 4 cost because of his effects, not just the toughness or the piercing, I mean, to get rid of tough, but also this healing thing is awesome. 3 attack is very, very good. Even though he takes 2 consequential damage, he can heal 1 of them back up every turn. I don't think he's S tier. I think Sunfire is still the best. Is he actually better than Hulk? No, I don't think he's better than Hulk. I think he's better than Thor, though. So my reasoning for why I still have Hulk up here, and I know a lot of you guys might think this is way too high for Hulk. Man, Hulk is 2 costs. I cannot get over his cost. And if you're building in a physical deck for him to utilize this ally, he's hitting 5, and he can do that for 5 turns. That's 25 damage. That is insane. He comes in very high tempo as well because he can do 5 on that first turn for just 2 cost. And then throughout the game, he is invaluable doing all that damage. Wolverine has a lot of situations where he's very, very good. And Wolverine is probably my favorite aggression ally right now. Hulk used to be my favorite. But Wolverine is really cool with his unique effects and his thwarting and healing 1 every single turn. So I think Wolverine is very, very good. But I think that Hulk fits in a lot more aggression decks. And Wolverine, you have to make sure that you have the resources to pay for him. But if you do, I think that he can easily slide in any aggression deck as well. And I think he's better than all these other allies behind him. Being able to, pierce off tough, being able to recover and just be a permanent beat cop, removing 1 threat every single turn and then healing it back up. So he can do it indefinitely. So yeah, I do think he's an amazing ally, but I don't think he's as strong as Sunfire, or for leadership like Marie Hill, or for basic like Nick Fury. He doesn't, he's not that level, but yeah, so alright, so this is my aggression ally tier list. And I'm a little bit surprised here that I actually have Sunfire as my best aggression ally. But I think looking at it, I would totally double down on that. I think Sunfire is that good. Even if you don't use his thing every single time, his response, just having that available in your deck is so good. He can get rid of Ronin's hammer as well, his universal weapon, where you don't have to take an encounter card and get shuffled back in the deck. Sunfire can just discard it, which is so powerful. So in situations where you can use his effect, he is so good, and even when you can't, he's still just a solid ally, being 2 cost, 2 attack and 2 hit points. Yeah, I think aggression has really strong allies. There's not many allies that I don't like. But yeah, so this is my aggression ally tier list. Let me know what you guys think, if you agree or disagree with anything. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time.